Welcome back to the Heartbeat of Money. I'm Jon P. Moffitt, and today we're tackling a topic that could quietly be costing you millions over the life of your business. It's leasing versus owning your commercial space. You see, most business owners build incredible income streams, but they stand on somebody else's land. They're paying rent, but not building equity. Over time, the difference between wealth and just income. This is more than just real estate. It's about a mindset. It's about positioning, and it's about a legacy. We're going to walk through the financial, emotional, and spiritual implications of ownership and how to move from leasing to legacy. And as always, we'll walk through using the three-legged stool: emotion, mindset, and spirit. So let's start with what no one wants to say out loud. If you're leasing your commercial space, you're building someone else's wealth. That may sound harsh, but it's true. Every rent payment you make helps them build equity, not you. Emotionally, it's frustrating. You kind of regret feeling like you're missing an opportunity. Most owners sign a lease to reduce their short-term risk, but end up with long-term losses. A $5,000 a month rent is $60,000 a year, and over 5 years, that's $300,000 with nothing to show for it. No equity, no appreciation, no tax benefits, no leverage. Lease renewal surprises, rent increase, lack of control. You're vulnerable to the landlord's decisions that can disrupt your entire business. Every rent check is a wealth transfer. So now, let's shift our thinking, because this isn't just a financial strategy, it's a mindset upgrade. Your mindset, stepping into ownership mentally and future-focused positioning. Ownership creates an asset value, which builds personal and business wealth. There's all kinds of financing. SBA, creative financing options are available to make ownership accessible. Owning your building gives you your leverage. Borrow against it, lease it out later, or sell it with the business when you sell the business. It'll give you a lot more options with your buyers as you move and transition to selling. It positions your business as a real estate asset, not just an operation. It says, I'm here to stay. That matters to banks, buyers, and even to the community. So are you building something worth owning, or are you just renting your space in the market? There's an emotional confidence that comes from knowing you own the ground you stand on. And emotion and spirit equals peace, confidence, alignment, and security. Reducing anxiety about lease renewals, rent hikes, or even being forced to move. The legacy positioning your business can outlive you and pass on both cash flow and equity. You're not just running a business, you're establishing a foundation. It's a faith-based stewardship. You're building a solid ground, not shifting in the sand. Build your house upon the rock, not the sand, as it says in Matthew 7:24 through 27. The emotional line. Ownership isn't just about the building, it's about what you're rooted in. So let me introduce you to a concept I teach inside my business consulting and mastermind groups. It's called Lease to Legacy. It's a 5-step framework that helps business owners transfer from renting to owning their commercial space. It's a smart, strategic, and financial sound way. Evaluate your current lease. Take a look at what the terms are, look at where your location is and where you're actually operating your business, and start exploring ownership options to buy a building, or buy the building you're in, or buy another building, or build a new building. I would start by engaging an SBA lender, local banks, or even start exploring seller financing partners. The big thing is to execute a smart deal structure and cash flow modeling. You want to make sure that all of your financials are in line and that you're looking for something within the kind of what you're paying for your lease right now as you're starting to evaluate what you can or cannot afford to buy. You want to expand your equity position by eventually, lease back or selling with the business. So, positioning yourself to either lease back to the new buyers coming in or selling the property with the business. It's going to, by owning your building, you can add 10 to 30% to your business evaluation. And it's not a real estate deal. It's a legacy move. And you gotta think about it that way. You gotta think, hey, I am putting this together so that when I go to sell my business one day, I have an asset and I have options, because the cash flow doesn't always hit where you want it to. You can't get the price that you want out of the building or out of the property or even out of the business. So you want to make sure that you're improving the assets of the business overall. And this isn't just something I've taught. I've walked it out in my own life and I've done it myself. So let me share a personal story with you from going from lease to legacy. When I started looking for a commercial property, I followed the following criteria. And there's three main criteria I follow. Location. It had to be in the right part of town. And the other one is functionality. It needed to support the growth and the operation of my business. And it was very specific that when you're looking at functionality, you're thinking about where you are today and where you want to go in the future of your business. For example, you might have a yard that has a bunch of equipment in it, and you don't have any place that is covered to maybe work on some of the vehicles. So when you're looking at your next space, start to think about some of the things you don't have, some of the things that'd be nice, and some of the things that you might be able to grow into. The other thing I like to do is look for distressed assets, meaning I wanted a property that had deferred maintenance and what we could improve on and add value to. So I found a space that fit all three, and the seller was open to creative financing. So we negotiated a lease purchase deal with the purchase price being locked in. It was at $215,000. During the lease phase, we funded all of the TI improvements and built out the infrastructure, systems, and design. And that particular property, we ended up going in, we had to buy some of the area around the building for parking and go through what they call an abandonment and buy that property back from the county and create parking spots. We also had to go through and upgrade all of the electrical, all of the plumbing, all of the HVAC. And so it was a very distressed property. The seller ended up carrying a portion for 2 years once we closed with a private lender because the property was so distressed and it was actually unfunctionable. So a lot of times, if you have the right contractors and the right vision and you can evaluate a property, some of the worst properties actually can turn into some of the best opportunities. So those TIs that we did became part of the down payment, which used to secure private equity financing. Eventually we went to traditional bank financing after about 18, 24 months. And so we transformed and turned a $215,000 property in space, which is now valued over out of $1.5 million. So we didn't just lease a building, we built a legacy. We turned risk into equity and equity into ownership. And I'm not the only one. Let me tell you, for example, another one of my business owners who followed this same path. He was a 15-year restaurant operator leasing a prime location. He was paying about $7,500 a month, which is $90,000 over 12 months. And so he had been there for 12 years. He had no equity. His landlord sold the building and he forced him into a 3-month location scramble. And this happens all the time. People get hit with all of a sudden the building sold and their lease terms are up. One of the things is you got to make sure when you're looking in your lease that there's some clause in there that if the building is sold, that you still can secure the length of your lease. But after consulting with my client, he bought a new property using an SBA 504 loan with just 10% down. Now he owns the land, he controls the lease terms, and he gained $400,000 in equity in 3 years. We went from tenant to landlord and never looked back. It was a beautiful thing for him. So here's the question. Are you renting someone else's future or are you building your own? First thing, fix your emotion around the fear and the risk from owning. Upgrade your mindset and start thinking like an investor, and anchor your spirit in ownership and stewardship. That's what we call building wealth with a heartbeat. If this episode hit home, subscribe, share, and explore how to lease to legacy could work for you and your business. Go to nextstagewealth.com and check it out. Next week, we're going to talk about isolation and the invisible cost of doing it alone as an entrepreneur. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Thank you for listening. And remember, build with purpose, exit with power, and always be visualizing beyond the exit.